Welcome to the college's Family and Parent Webcast. I'm College Dean Paul Snigowski, and I'm joined here by some colleagues, faculty, and staff from the college. And in a moment, we'll answer your questions and have a conversation together about the questions that you've raised. Before we do that, before we have introductions and questions, I'd like to just mention a few dates and sort of parameters going on for you. Advanced registration is going on right now, so if you family members haven't heard about that from your student, you might want to ask them about it. It runs until November 10th. Family Weekend is coming up this weekend, November 1st, Friday, November 1st through Sunday, November 3rd. There will be various events, including a research fair, a brunch, your majoring in what event, which is always fun. The withdraw deadline to withdraw from a course is Monday, November 4th. That's coming up. And in case you didn't know it, Thanksgiving break starts fairly soon too. Thanksgiving is Thursday, November 28th. The last day of class of the fall semester is December 9th, which will be followed by final exams, which carry on for some reading days and final exams, which carry on for some time after that. Well, on to introductions, and we'll start on my right here.
Hi, my name is Janet Tai. I am the Dean of First Year Students and the Director of Academic Advising in the college. On a good day, I'm also a historian of medicine and science, interested in public health and the relationship between law and medicine. The first year students seem to have settled in really well from my conversations with the house deans in the college houses and various members of the advising team, so you should be happy. We've got lots of things going on.
I'm Peter Holquist. I'm a professor in the Department of History here at the University of Pennsylvania. My own area of specialization is Russian and Modern European History, and I'm presently also serving as Director of Graduate Studies.
I'm Rebecca Poyero. I'm an Assistant Dean for Advising in the college office, which means I'm advising quite a number of first-year students, sophomores, and beyond. I have an academic background in American Studies. My my research was on the working class history in Detroit, turn of the century.
So before we get to your questions, one quick note. Professor Holquist here has got to leave with about 5 minutes to go because he has to go to the history department's undergraduate research.
It's an undergraduate course fair.
Undergraduate course fair.
Students have advanced registration. We want to tell them what courses are available in history.
Yeah.
And just in case you don't know, advanced registration is what they did in the summer. So students get to look at the courses for the spring semester, figure out what looks good to them, make what we call mock schedules and fit things together, talk to their pre-major advisor, and then put their requests into the system. And sometime in mid-November, like around the 19th, it's going to all come back to them. They'll see what they got. And then we have a nice long period to add and change your schedule all the way into January.
And they must talk to their undergraduate pre-major advisor because there's a hold on their advanced registration until they have done so. And then the pre-major advisor will remove that hold. So, on to questions.
Well, one question is, what kind of courses might you recommend to somebody in their first years looking for history courses, ways to look through the offerings of the department?
Well, we've just restructured our undergraduate offerings and numberings, so we've numbered the courses so that students know what level of specialization and preparation they'll need to go in. We've got a reputation as a department for being very committed to undergraduate teaching. I think one of the areas that I think faculty really enjoy, and we've had good experience with students, especially our undergraduate and first-year students, is our seminar experience, where students get to work closely in a close 12 to 15 person class size, work with faculty. When we teach first-year seminars, which we offer, they're structured differently than our regular research seminars. A research seminar usually meets once a week for 3 hours. In order to provide more hands-on guidance and prepare first-year students, when we offer first-year seminars, we usually structure them as meetings twice a week for an hour and a half.
And I would add that if your student hasn't this semester been in a first-year seminar of one kind or another, really it's an excellent opportunity to try to look for one in the spring, and seminar courses in general during the rest of their years here. These are a real opportunity to have that close dialogue with other students and with a faculty member.
And that's one of the things they would get when they go and see their advisor is some practical counsel about, so you're going to take 5 courses next semester and you've taken 4 this semester, how are you going to deal with the extra work? But also, what's a good mix of large enrollment classes with lots of classmates and smaller seminar kinds of things? And it's almost always in the student's best interest to have a mix, and the way our curriculum is structured, you can have that mix across pretty much most departments.
Exactly.
Yeah. As a biology prof, I wind up advising large numbers of students who are pre-medical career or who are doing a science major. One of the things I advise them to do is, you have a lot of science courses. Let's have something on the humanities side in the mix for you, so that you've got some balance and you have a thing that changes up how you're thinking during the week.
And even the medical school application
Yes.
system encourages that. So
It
it's
sure
not
does.
just Dean Snigalski.
It sure does. Yeah.
I mean, this is a liberal arts institution, and in addition to getting a variety of genre of courses, when I'm advising first-year students, I also suggest that this is their opportunity to try to explore various disciplines and see what might be a possible major for them.
Yes, for sure.
We had a related question. What are students expected to do to prepare for advising conversations? What can they ask their advisors?
Well, you can ask them pretty much anything you want, and the answer could be interesting. No, all these courses have been out for students to look at for several weeks now. They've been able to talk to their friends who are a font of interesting information and advice about things. There are departments having course fairs. The whole School of Arts and Sciences had a course and majors fair for students last Wednesday, so there was faculty and students available for several hours for students to talk to them, maybe look at syllabi, think about what they're doing. And then, even more important, this time, when students are choosing courses, they will actually have had experience in Penn classrooms. They will know kind of what it likes to learn these kinds of things, where they might be struggling and get some help from the Weingart Learning Resource Center, where they might really excel. They may also have discovered fields they never heard about before.
Yes.
My department has this health and societies major. What does that mean? We have a philosophy, political science, and economics major. What does that mean? It's not just, 3 from different categories. There's an integrated way of looking at things. That's what students now can ask questions about. As well as so now they're thinking about what they want to do for careers. We can connect them up with people who can help them start thinking about that.
Yeah. So often students come to me, advisees, and they seem to feel that there's a list of stuff they need to do. And there is. We have that, and that's very clear. That list is extraordinarily broad, and the breadth of it is precisely about finding out what really interests you. And so I will ask them, what are you interested in these days? What interests you? There may be things you think your family or that you think you should do, but what interests you? What interests you, and how can we explore that in the courses that you take?
Related, people have been asking about the major declaration. When do students declare their majors? How does this happen? And what kind of major advising in general, do students get once they declare a major?
I can speak for my own department. I'd be interested in hearing how it works in other departments. So students usually in their second year, earlier or later in the second year, depending on whether they've hit upon exactly something that they know they're interested in or not. They declare, they sit down with the undergraduate advisor in history. We've got a dedicated undergraduate advisor who sketches out what the requirements will be in the major and tries to match up student interest with who would be a good major advisor, a faculty member in the department who would then provide major advising. They continue on with college advisors, but they will then have an advisor also within the major. This is one reason to take courses as an undergraduate and explore, is you often then will track on to faculty members you've had in particular
Yes,
courses
yes.
As advisors. It's a very good time to talk to them when I'm serving as a major advisor about what the particular path or course of the major will be. For example, in history, if students are interested in doing an honors thesis, which is a voluntary project, it's not required, you must begin doing this in your junior year, which is coming up very soon if they're declaring early in the second year.
So the general rule is you have to declare your major by March of your sophomore second year. And most students, that's not a problem. I will tell you that we begin as part of pre-major advising to have students begin to think strategically about how to choose the best major for them. And that can often use the general requirements to help them take important courses in a field that would also let them taste a different kind of a field. We have 57 possible majors in the College of Arts and Sciences, and that doesn't even count the various concentrations within majors. So there is a lot of choosing that students need to do, but they need to do that in an informed way. And if you have to, if I was going to talk about the curriculum for advising, it's all about helping students to think strategically, to think about an informed way about what they like, what they're good at, what they want to learn more about, how their vision of themselves when they leave here at Penn would fit into that, and to do it in a sort of developmental way. So right now, those first conversations about, so what kind of strategy or comparison and contrasting are you using for majors are really a key part of advanced registration.
I've learned an interesting thing from students I talked with, which is that it's also really valuable for our students early in their careers here, first year, beginning of second year, to get to know and ask questions of students who are already in a major. How do you like that major? How did you find it? You know, what's the community like in that major? Those can be important things in finding the right fit for you.
And how do they find those people?
Yeah.
So we have this other great program which the students can find on the college website called MAP, which is Major Advising Program. And that's students, upper class persons who the departments think would be good, but the students themselves think they would be good and offer their time to other students to talk about them. So they put up like little descriptions of themselves, what their majors, minors, what their telephone numbers are, what their emails are, whatever they're comfortable putting up there, and they are a great source of information for students. That's why student advisory boards in departments like history are really valuable.
Yeah. As with so many other things in life, it's good to get to know someone who's already kind of gone where you're about to go.
And from a student's perspective.
Yeah,
I mean, we
from
have one
your
perspective, but the
perspective.
students
That's
look at
right.
it their way too.
That's right.
And the event that you're going to go to, hosted by the department, many departments and programs have these events, and we also have the Majors and More series that the college puts on in partnership with the college houses, where students can go and get a meal and talk to faculty there and think about potential majors in a non-classroom context with food.
With food.
Yeah. The other thing that I've been thinking about is when I have conversations with people in the first and second year, and they have a major they're really interested in, but they're worried about it because they say, oh, I'll never get a job with this major. I often do draw on the resources that Career Services has on its website. And they have, under the Exploration tab there, a lot of information about where people have gone, the vast array of careers that people have gone to from every single major. And they also have career exploration within interest areas and careers that people can look at, and they have assessments. So if a person is really worried that being major X will mean that they can't do career Y, I think that there's a lot of information just on the website and also in talking with people at Career Services that can help allay that fear, and then let the student get freed up to do what they're really intellectually curious about, because that's what's going to, have them do their best work,
Mhm.
and then be able to go in whatever direction
Yeah.
they want
Yeah.
for a career.
I can't resist two more
Mhm.
comments. One is that whatever major you take in the college, there is this thing called the general requirement, the 7 sectors and the foundational requirements. And those are going to set you up with skills that we know from talking with employers and talking with our former students who've gone out on the job market, suit you to a wide array of potential careers. You learn how to write, how to calculate, how to have a meaningful dialogue with people. You learn cross-cultural kinds of things. You learn this array of skills that we hear from employers and from our former students are extremely valuable. The second thing I want to say, though, is that, you know, even we who work in this business are not immune sometimes to the worry about the majors our children are doing. And I'll tell a story on my daughter, which has advance approval. When she was in college, she's done now, my wife and I were driving around, and I said, well, what's Emma going to do as a major? And my wife said, French. And before I could stop myself, I said, what's she going to do with that? So it happens to us, too. As it happens, she's working in New York City and doing quite well, thank you. So there you go.
And she was a French major.
Yes, and she was a French major.
Okay. How typical is it for a first-year student in their enthusiasm to jump into too many extracurricular activities only to find out they're in over their head? And what can you do about it?
Jump into fewer extracurricular activities.
Well,
Janet.
this gets back to that age-old question. When is it that you learn how to say no?
Yeah,
Or not
yeah,
now?
yeah.
And that, you know, it's asking a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds to come in knowing how to do that. So it's part of the learning experience, especially of that first year. And I think that many of them do learn that their skills of time management aren't as sharp and suited to what the kind of lifestyle they'd like to lead here. So they're going to have to learn new ones, and they're going to have to recognize what's an important priority. Yes, it is maybe lovely that you spend many, many hours doing whatever. I won't even name a particular extracurricular, but you got to find a way to go to class. You have to find a way to hand those things in on time. And if you're feeling stressed about that, then you need to come in and talk to your advisor about finding a different way to manage it. Our Weingarten Learning Resource Center has some terrific resources about time management, not just people, but tools that students can use. But all of this is about the students saying, okay, wait a minute. There's only 24 hours in a day, and I can't fly. And that's a really hard thing sometimes for them to learn.
Yeah. They're addressing in their first year a good deal of changes. So first, it's the life skill of learning how much is too much.
Right.
It's also a very different. I too have 2 children who are navigating college. A different sort of time ebb and flow, and a different question of time management in terms of what university coursework is like, as opposed to a very structured format in high school. And in some ways, doing extracurricular activities in moderation
It's a good thing.
is a good thing in terms of providing structure to your time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, you face these 2 dilemmas. You don't want them overdoing it.
Yeah.
But if you look at the discussions in the student newspaper often, it's what advice would you give to yourself if you were a freshman or a first-year student? And often it is, you should try things in moderation.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Can you tell me the university's policy on pass-fail courses? Can you take pre-med courses pass-fail if they're not in the major?
So the university's policy is that a course can be taken pass-fail if it's not in the general requirement and it's not in their major. If you are applying to medical school and it is one of the courses on the medical schools list or the vet schools list, it can't be taken pass-fail. The medical schools want to see every single grade, period. There is no negotiation about that. So that's not our rule, that's their rule. If in fact you're having, your student is having this conversation in their head or with you about pass-fail, tell them to come in and talk to their pre-major advisor at the college office, because usually there's something underneath that conversation. They're going to try to use the pass-fail to solve a problem that might be better solved another way, like going to talk to the teaching assistant or figuring out why that exam didn't go the way you wanted it by actually, you know, deconstructing that exam with someone. Those things are all available, maybe even getting some tutoring if you need it. But the pass-fail is rarely a solution to the problem, other than I want to explore something I don't know if I'm really interested in, and it looks exciting, but it's a little scary to me. So
That's
it's
right.
an exploration.
That's the real intention of
That's
pass-fail
right.
on our part, is to get you into things that you might otherwise be a little reluctant to get into as a student, with the minimum of risk. And it's about interest.
And it's,
It's
yes.
about interest and
Also,
curiosity.
the deadline has passed, so
Yeah.
this semester that discussion's over with.
All right.
But they might be thinking about it in terms of advanced.
That's
Yeah,
right, exactly
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. What kinds of opportunities are there for first-year students to do summer research?
Ooh,
Ooh.
talk about
Okay. So, big excitement. The university has, through the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships, also known as CURF, we're big on acronyms here, we have a program called PERM. And it's the
Penn.
Undergraduate Research and Mentorship. Is that right?
Exactly
Yeah,
right, that's
it's PERM.
perfect.
Announcement, and so what PERM is a program through CURF where faculty put in research ideas, research proposals that they would like to bring undergraduate researchers in on. And the focus is on first-year students and the summer after the first year. And announcements for these go out in February, I think. Is it February of each
So the
year?
announcements goes out to faculty before that, so
Yeah.
it's around February.
Yeah, and so it hits for students in February, and I've been telling students in the class I'm teaching, watch out for PERM. PERM's going to come. There will be opportunities for paid internships with, research internships with faculty in the summer. So there's that. That's a program. There's another program that's not easily pronounced, GFRMR. That's through CURF. I forget what that one stands for, but that's also a sponsored internship program through CURF. And more generally, even if you don't find or are not interested in opportunities through CURF, the university is full of faculty who do research with students. And if you are interested in something, if you've taken a course with somebody or you've read their work, faculty love it when students come to them and say, I'm really interested in, genuinely, I'm really interested in your work. Don't be afraid to contact Peter or me or anyone else whose work interests you, and just see if they might be interested in taking on an undergraduate.
And the college office, in combination with CURF, has a number of relationships with museums and archives in the city of Philadelphia, where there are fellowships offered for summer work in those. And I've had one of my funniest pre-med students of all time spent her entire career at Penn working down in the archaeology museum because she just loved working with those artifacts. And I have to tell you, I am convinced that's what got her into all those medical schools, even though her orgo grade wasn't the best. But she just was so excited about this, and it was a good balance, and she could talk about how the science worked very well with what she was trying to do in preserving an object.
Yeah, that interest comes through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever brought undergraduates in to work on a project with you, or does it tend to be more graduate students? Or
Undergraduates, yes. I do Russian history, and so it would require, for primary work, work with Russian. Although I had a student work with me one summer, working with the materials of the British press in the 1870s on various international diplomatic congresses, and the student then went on and did master's work in international relations, so it was directly applicable.
right.
But you can see all this cross-disciplinary lines. This is what the School of Arts and Sciences does so well. Students aren't defined by what they major in. They are encouraged to have interest in a very broad kind of way, and opportunities in all of those places.
Yeah.
It's a big place, and there are lots of opportunities. One thing I will say is that, as a student here, you're not going to be walking across College Green and a faculty member is going to grab you and say, I want to be your research mentor. No, that'd be a little creepy, in fact. So it's on you to reach out, explain that you're interested in things, reach out to faculty. And if you're not sure how to write an email to a faculty member, ask your college advisor. They can advise you on that. They can say, show me what you've written very quickly. They'll say, that looks appropriate, or you might shorten it, or whatever. But it's on you, and there are many ways to explore the possibilities here.
And our partners over in the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships have a program of peer mentors. Undergraduates
that's
who
right.
will talk about
Yeah.
how did they get into research and how can they help you get into research. And so that's another resource which is available on the CURF website if the student wants a little help.
All right. Our student was disappointed with their grades. The first midterms came back and they're very discouraged. What can they do to get their confidence back?
I think one thing to address is the way in which grades are a diagnostic tool and not an evaluation of a person and their work.
Yes.
And it can be taken as an opportunity to have a conversation with your teaching assistant or your instructor about how you might pursue different techniques in terms of addressing these questions. Often students are working in disciplines that they're exploring and might have different approaches in terms of how one should study. And so I think rather than being immediately discouraged, one might also look at this as a chance to explore how one might study differently.
We have this wonderful resource called the Weingarten Learning Resource Center, which is a group of experts on learning. And they recognize that, many students coming from high school maybe don't have the best note-taking skills, or their efficiency and efficacy at reading large amounts of material is not what it should be in a place like Penn. And so they're there to help the student, also to diagnose what's going on, and to provide maybe just some very specific learning tricks, ideas that a student would change in a concrete, specific ways what they're doing. And I think when my advisees come to me with that question, that's what I try to get them to do is, okay, it's not about you, you're a valuable person. It's a problem we have to solve, and get any tool that Penn has to offer us to help us solve that problem. That includes teaching assistants and instructors and Weingarten, and it may include not doing, the reading for the class 2 days before the exam, or it may include that you actually do have to take notes and read them over every week, those little kinds of things.
And it can be quite hands-on. I mean, I have had undergraduates from the first year literally up through the level of graduate students who benefited from going to the Writing Center.
Oh,
and
another great reason.
going over, really in a sort of forensic way, how you present arguments, how you analytically present arguments. And I've had students who come to me and said, it's been such a relief to be able to speak with somebody and be pointed to certain techniques and tools that will stay with me.
Because they want to do better,
Exactly.
they want to learn this stuff,
It's a big transition from high school to college. And, rightly so, our students who come here as undergraduates feel good about themselves. They got in at a very fine university and they're here. It's incorrect for them to feel that they've got it all figured out when they get here. There is continual learning to learn to do, and that transition is really big. Their assessments are not as closely spaced. Exams, papers are not as closely spaced in college, as Peter kind of implied earlier. The level of engagement with the material is often deeper than students have previously encountered. The way in which you're not expected on an exam to just give back something you memorized, but rather to take a look at a situation, analyze it, and reason through to an appropriate answer is often more detailed and more difficult. The other thing to say to your student who's disappointed is they are not alone.
Exactly.
They are not alone. Most of our students have the experience of arriving here in their first semester and getting a little pulled up short. They will get over it with the kinds of things that Janet and Peter and Rebecca have mentioned.
Another question, my son's been having trouble getting a tutor through the tutoring center. What are other options if he can't get a private tutor? Well, even on the tutoring website, you can see that they have a couple of other programs, including satellite tutoring, where a
Group
student
tutoring.
where a student can sign up online on a first-come, first-served basis each week. But there's also college house tutoring, and there's also, you know, getting bold enough to go to office hours and talk with your professor or your TA and go over the material there. That's always available.
I think you've already, Paul, indicated how much faculty actually enjoy it when students come to speak with you about the class, about their interests. I have really enjoyed speaking with students when they've come and they've said, exactly in this interval between graded assignments, how am I doing? I often conduct conversations in class, and am I participating enough? They're worried about I have students who take my courses who are not history majors or have not had a history course. They want to know whether, you know, am I asking the right questions? Am I thinking about this reading in the right way? So it is okay to drop in with your teaching assistant or instructor to say, you know, am I getting this? Is this working?
Yes, and it's also okay to drop in just for a conversation. Office hours mean, at least I'm sure to Peter and to me, to Janet and to Rebecca, office hours mean that the door is open for that time and you may come in and we can talk about whatever. We can talk about your exam, we can talk about your paper, we can talk about something you're interested in that sort of is peripheral to the subject of our class, but that we can find a way to talk about. And it's a worthwhile experience.
Can even talk about, I'm having trouble finding a tutor. We
Yes.
can problem solve around that
Yeah.
too.
Okay. If a student grants parents permission to receive their grades, how do parents access that information? They don't directly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
So according to the federal government, your children are now adults.
right.
And they can waive their privacy rights. I can tell you that there's 2 tabs. If you go and look, you can see this yourselves as family members. 2 tabs. One is that they will waive their privacy rights to their academic record, and they may waive their rights to their financial records. The vast majority of our students say, yes, you may see anything about their finances, but no, you may not see very much about their academics. You and your child need to have that conversation, or you and your adult, I should say, need to have that conversation. And I always think it's better, and quite frankly, this is how it worked when my sons were here. It's up to them to decide, and they were the source by which I got information. And I did not peek.
I'm worried my child is isolated and not making friends with his roommates. What would you suggest for making friends outside the dorm?
Well, I mean, here's where extracurricular activities,
Definitely.
if done in moderation, are a real opportunity. There's a wide spectrum and plethora of things, from intramural sports to reading societies to singing societies to acting societies that students can pursue.
Volunteer work, all
volun-
kinds of
Volunteer work in the West Philly school system. I mean, in a sense, being one's roommate is an arbitrary
Yes.
Yeah.
luck of the draw, and it can
Yeah.
work out or it cannot work out. That is then something that can be worked on, but one hasn't exhausted the universe of possible connections and possible friends simply by the universe of people you've been put into a room with.
Or on a hall with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also remember, you're in class with people. There's people in your class you might find interesting, or the remarks they made in class. You know, you can say to somebody, that was really a great comment, and I'd like to talk more about that, or how did you know about that? Can we get coffee? Yes, it may mean you making the overture, and that can sometimes feel a little awkward, but that is how people make connections. And I can tell you, in practical terms, a lot of the friendships people make in first year are not the ones that then are the most memorable and stay with them over the course of their 4 years at Penn. They make a
true.
whole lot of
How true,
different
yeah.
connections.
All right, here's one about Thanksgiving break. We aren't able to fly our son home for Thanksgiving break. What happens on breaks for students in the houses?
Well, our college housing system takes this very seriously. So many of the houses have their own sort of Thanksgiving feasts in the houses. Many of the faculty and staff who are around locally and would like to invite people to come and enjoy it with their families, that we have those lists and signups available. We have security in the houses, so when the students are here during break, they are, they're not alone. What was the other thing fellow students. So very often, students will take other students home with them, and that can be an interesting experience too. So there's lots of things that happen, but I will say this, there's a lot that goes on this campus over that 4-day break.
All right, worrying about flu season and what happens if our kids get sick, they can't attend class. What should they do?
I will say that the student health, and I participated in this, for staff, faculty, and all students provided a flu clinic and provided free flu shots for everybody, so that there's an attempt at preventive, addressing this in a preventive manner, but in terms of once they've gotten sick, suggestions.
So we have, everyone pays a health fee, and so everyone should feel like that. Student health service is for me, and they certainly see that way. They have walk-in hours every day, you can make appointments, there is a wonderful array of providers, and yes, you should go and talk to one of them. If you don't feel well and you're stuck in your room, there are RAs, resident assistants, and GAs on your halls, and if you need a little help and your friends don't know what to do, certainly ask them. They can provide, somebody might go get you some fluids or whatever is going on, or we can arrange the Uber to come get you to take you over if you don't want to walk those couple blocks over to student health. I will say this, student health has got just an array of wonderful providers. Doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, various kinds of specialty and connections if you would need a subspecialist, whatever, into the hospital system, and you've already paid for it. You already have health insurance that's part of it. Please make use of the service. And yes, they're still going to call their families. It doesn't matter. But isn't that good that you still have one use in their lives, that when they don't feel well, they're comfortable talking to you.
I mean, it's also important for them to be in touch with faculty if they're going to miss class.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
We have a course absence report system which they can use.
It's electronic.
Yeah, and it's on Penn and Touch. They can access it and say, that they're missing class because of illness, or missing class because of other things such as religious observance or whatever. And if the illness went on for a long time, over 5 days of class missed in a row, then we would really want them to make sure to contact the college office so that we could help them in working things out with faculty. But the first step is really self-report and being in touch with faculty and figuring out a plan to do the work that was missed while they were sick. Certainly they should take care of themselves while they're sick, but
and not spread it to lots of other people.
Right, but they also want to figure out the plan for returning to studies and getting things done.
Yeah. And let me, as a biologist, add a comment here, which is a couple of comments. Get some sleep, students. It's known that getting sleep helps keep you healthy and helps keep you happy and thinking well. Second thing, wash your hands. With some of the buildings that you are going into and out of, the doors are touched by hundreds of people. You can take simple steps simple hygienic steps to minimize the chance that you will pick up something and get sick.
Okay. Another topic, study abroad. When is a good time to plan for study abroad, and how does it work? For students on financial aid?
Well, study abroad, you should start talking about it as soon as you think you might be interested. In
Yeah,
fact,
right,
pre-major
right.
advisors will often ask a student about it,
Are you
even if the
thinking about
student
it?
hasn't
Right,
brought
right.
it up. We have a wonderful Penn Abroad office, which is a really very interesting website with lots of videos from students who've been abroad. Clear directions, I think, on about how to do things and what the student should be thinking about. Most of our students go abroad junior year, either fall or the spring. It's getting pretty evenly spread. We even have a fairly large contingent that may go abroad in the fall of their senior year. Just depends on what else they want to do and how the planning works. That's what students need to figure out is, what is it that I want to go abroad and do? Many students, it's going abroad because it enriches their major in some way. Sometimes it might be a minor, particularly if that is, or a second major, which if it's a language and they really want to improve their language skills. Sometimes it's about a special interest that they've developed, and this abroad experience can enrich that. And then it's a question of how can they get the other things they need to get done. It's just about planning. And we have, around 300 students who go abroad every year. It's a lot of students, and they have had an array of experiences. We also have some summer experiences, both internships abroad as well as studying abroad experiences. Again, what suits a student's schedule, their intellectual interests. Financial aid, it should not, your finances going abroad to a Penn program is the same as if you were here, so that your financial aid applies to that. If where you're going there is an increased cost of living kinds of costs, there are adjusting financial aid packages to deal with that. There may be other costs that it's worth looking into, but Penn Abroad is trying to be very transparent about extra travel costs or visa costs, things like that. But the idea is, if we're offering you an abroad experience, we're trying to make it the same as if you were here with us. Because we treat the grades you get during semesters abroad as we do Penn grades.
Yeah.
In addition to do general information at Penn Abroad, many of these study abroad programs run their own dedicated information sessions with people who have participated and
Absolutely.
people who've run it, which would allow you to find out what is it actually going to look like. I mean, what will my experience in these places be like? I'd also want to underscore what Janet said in terms of planning and speaking with advisors, both college advisors and major advisors, in terms of how you can syncopate your leave with the requirements that you'll have. It can often be done, but
Easily done, actually.
But
Many
one-
departments like yours are very open to going abroad.
yes, very much.
But you need to look ahead, and there is the chance. In particular, I advise, as I said before, pre-med students, and there's a certain amount of stuff you got to get through to position yourself to apply to medical school. And you need to look ahead and make sure that if you're going to be gone for part of your junior year, that you're able to take the courses that you're going to need, either most likely here or abroad.
Although, it's one of the things I very much like about the biology website is they put together a page where they make suggestions of programs where you could do
Yes,
some of
yeah.
the science courses abroad.
Right, right.
Usually in programs where the language of instruction is English,
English,
but
yeah.
it's the word on the street. If students say, "Oh no, I'm a science major, I'm pre-med, I can't go abroad," that's
No,
not true.
That's not true.
Not true,
That's not true.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it's about finding a place to do those courses abroad, or sometimes it's planning so that when you go, you're doing electives in other part of your curriculum.
And that's also Peter's point. Go talk to your major advisor. Oftentimes departments and programs they really like, and they, and there's a real good reason
Yeah.
it fits with what they want to get
Exactly.
done.
Exactly.
Okay, here's another question. What are SAIL courses? My daughter was trying to explain this to me.
Stands for Structured Active In-Class Learning. And the idea here is to get away from the traditional stand and deliver lecture format, which I'm sure all of us have taught in and which can be very effective, stand and deliver lecture format. But we also know that for many subjects, and in particular I think for subjects in the science, technology, and math fields, a format that in which the instructor mixes up what's going on in the classroom. Often in a SAIL classroom, you'll have individual tables with 8 to 10 students at them. There'll be a little period of lecture, and then there'll be something that the students need to work on, some structured activity in the context of the lecture period itself, and then the classroom will return to that. There might be discussion between the tables or between the instructor and the tables. The idea here, all learning is active. Let's not get that part wrong. I mean, if you're going to learn, your brain has to be active. But it puts more emphasis on active participation by students in the classroom, and we do have evidence that this can make a difference in certain kinds of classes in the performance of students and what they learn.
Active participation and collaborative work among
Right.
students, right?
Right.
And there are dedicated classrooms that
Yes.
are designed to maximize the
Yep.
capacities to do this.
We have several such classrooms now on campus.
Although I'm a historian, so I'll put this out there. I actually think many times a seminar is a SAIL course that nobody put a label on.
Well, I
There's
couldn't
a
agree
lot
more.
of interaction going on.
Mhm.
It
I
is,
couldn't agree more.
and it's just in a regular classroom where you've
Yeah.
created that kind of environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, SAIL classes often will be larger than a seminar. I'm teaching one that's kind of in a SAIL format right now, and it's 70 students, and we do a lot of what I just described
Mhm.
in that classroom.
So I got one question from a parent who said that their student had had accommodations in high school, but hadn't reached out to get them in college, and they were worried that things weren't going to go so well.
Mm.
And what could we do to help?
Well,
Well, the student could come into the college office, make an appointment with someone, and we could certainly get them connected with the part of the Weingart Learning Resource Center, which is the Student Disability Services Team, which is just phenomenally good at helping students figure out what accommodation they had in high school, what exactly is the learning difference they have, and how it might work here, and
mhm, mhm.
and then communicating, because they have a great structured communication system
Mhm.
with instructors to put that in place. So I'm assuming all of you have received letters from the,
I just want to say the Student Disability Services is amazing. It's a really structured institution that reaches out and has got mechanisms.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's not people falling through the cracks. That there's a real structure and mechanism that makes it both easy to submit requests and have accommodations met, and works very closely with the instructors. It's I can't sing its
and you don't have to know all the details, it's just
No.
what can I do
No.
to make the student's learning experience
Experience.
better, and
Right.
so they shouldn't be afraid of it. It's a really good
No,
team, and
no.
they're very approachable.
Yeah.
And
And-
again, it's online, you
and-
can
and-
find it.
And it's a very common experience. I mean,
Oh,
it's,
sure,
it
sure.
is, very
Yeah.
many students are participating in this, and it's something that we as faculty deal with all the time.
We do, yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, I often hate to say the actual name of the office, because I see them as learning differences, and
Right,
there's
right.
many kinds
Precisely,
of learning
yeah,
differences.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's an interesting, issue that comes up when people are making the transition into college. They've had accommodations in high school, and they sometimes want to remake themselves and
Yeah,
do without,
yeah.
and it can be a struggle the first semester as they figure out what supports they want to access, need to access. And we're very willing to talk through it in advising. But sometimes it has to come from the students' experiences, and that can be hard. So, another one is, my daughter is a freshman. She was hoping to try things in the college, but the clubs required some sort of audition to get in, and she didn't get into any clubs. So my question is, where does a beginner go to try new things?
Well, so clubs are, I talk with students about this issue a lot. I have a Dean's Advisory Board that I meet with every week. And students are really aware that clubs, and many clubs are trying to change the way they do things and to be, let's say, less selective, less forbidding, less formidable to students who want to join them. So, I would advise your daughter to try again, talk to people she knows are in clubs. But I do sympathize. It is it's tough to go through that process of wanting to get into a number of clubs and not get into one. There is a very large number of such clubs and opportunities on campus, and I'm sure that she will find something among all of those that fits well for her.
Well, I think there's also programming in the houses that
Yes.
people can access, and that is, very open and right there for students. I haven't lived in a college house, so I don't know it up front, but
Yes, there is programming in every house.
Yeah.
Each floor can have different kind of programming. But there is also all kinds of programming going on around the university, which is not based upon being a member of a club.
Anything.
And you should
Right.
feel like, okay, well, that route didn't work, let me try something else.
Another question that came in is kind of, what does the end of the semester look like from here on out? What should the student expect to find, from here through finals?
Okay.
So,
Get some sleep. Let me repeat that message first of all, and then I'll take a try at this question and
Okay.
pass it to my colleagues. My experience with my students is that they are kind of stunned by how quickly things seem to go at the end of the semester after the Thanksgiving break. And so, start thinking now about the end of the semester. Start doing routine work of reviewing things and so forth. I believe Janet earlier said something about not reading the textbook 2 days before, or the assignment, or whatever it is, 2 days before the exam. In other words, don't do what I did in a class I took when I was a college student and paid dearly for it. Read in advance, think in advance, stay organized, get some sleep, and expect sort of expect not with dread but with realism that things are going to get a little hairy at the end of the semester. Keep your cool, get some sleep, do your work well in advance. Any other advice?
Well, there are bonuses to being at this part of the semester in that students will have known and become more familiar with the type of assignments that they're going to be getting.
That's true.
Because that's one of the difficult things that causes anxiety. Is you're discovering as the semester goes on what the expectations are and what is the genre of evaluation, and in a sense you're getting a hand on that now, and they're more comfortable.
Yeah.
You will have reading days before exam. That is both an advantage and a drawback, because it can be a false friend.
Yeah.
Exactly, in terms of thinking that I can
catch up
I can get you up every. So I
Yeah.
think the argument exactly to be prepared, and it is disorienting to have a Thanksgiving break where you're back home with family, to be thrown back into this very concentrated study and
It's
exam
almost
schedule.
over then, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes quickly.
And final exams. So you need to get as much information from your instructors and TAs about the structure of the exam, what will be on the exam, all those kinds of things. But also there are all kinds of resources to help you if you've never had final exams or you're a little anxious about them. Once again, our friends in the Weingart Learning Resource Center, I think that even in college houses, there's a lot of effort put on how do you get yourself organized for your first set of exams, especially in the first year houses. Also, my friends in counseling and psychological services, this is a normal part of development. They are happy to talk through those kinds of anxieties and how do I make decisions about this, which I think is important. With final exams, preparation is but being a realist about your preparation.
Yeah. Let me tell you something your family can do as a student, or you
although
at
I
Men's
wanted
can
to
do. Yeah, go
interrupt
ahead.
because I think you had
Oh,
an
Peter, we're
engagement,
getting close
the
to-
history.
I want to make sure the students are able to understand what great courses we're offering in time for their advanced registration. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
all.
much.
Have fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Yeah. I think, Rebecca, are you going to
Should
stay there or
should
will you move over?
scoot in?
Yeah.
I don't know what is the best way to do this. Okay.
Great. So I'll just add the one more thing I was going to add, which is something I often suggest to my Bio 102 students, which is, oh, you're going home. Explain how the kidney works to your mom or dad. Right? If you can explain something that you are supposed to have learned and explain it clearly and well to the wall, your friend, your mom or dad,
The dog.
your sister, some audience, it really puts you on the spot, and it's a great way to study. It's one of the things I know that Weingarten recommends is try to narrate this to somebody, try to explain it.
Right. And I think also one of the other things to think about as the term winds up is that there are long-term larger projects that will come due.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the tendency for some people can be to kind of push that to the end, but one of the most successful tactics for dealing with it would be to really chunk it up and to say, okay, what's the first part that I have to deal with? What's the second? And to make little mini goals so that that final paper, and you can do this with studying for, you know, all the material in a test as well. I mean, if a student can create their own structure for those long-term projects, that will set them in good stead. And that's the kind of thing that working with someone at Weingarten can help you do on an individual basis or in their workshops. They have some throughout the semester on, you know, managing projects, managing courses, and they'll have some during final exams as well.
I have students, my graduate students and undergraduates, who have a paper to write, come to me and say, I just can't, I don't know how to get started. And this relates to what Rebecca was saying. And so some of the advice I will give them is just start writing anything. Just anything. Just get something. Just get something going on the page, and then you have something to revise. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It never is from the start.
Another little advanced registration question that came in. With respect to advanced registration, we realized last time that it's sometimes difficult to get into the classes you want, requirements, seminars. What's the best approach to getting into classes?
Well, there are many choices, and so one of the good approaches is to not restrict yourself to, you know, a list of those things that you are just, you know, it's do or die, those things. There are many possibilities in probably every area of study that you might be interested in, and so take very seriously thinking through what your alternative possibilities might be in any given area. That certainly will help. There is also a little bit of shakeout that happens after advanced registration, and there can be opportunities to get into things that initially you didn't get into. Anything to add to that?
Yes, your peers are your great source of information about how they think you can game the advanced registration system to get most of what you want. And there are simple rules like, well, you have primary and alternate requests, and if a course is a small enrollment and you really want it, say like a writing seminar, pick 2 and put them that way. I mean, but again, we get back to it depends. That answer where we always like to give. Sit down with someone and say, this is what I want to do, and if it's another student, I bet they can give you some interesting insights in how to make advisor in touch work, or pen in touch work for the student. Also, your pre-major advisor could be able to help.
Yeah. And also,
and there's videos.
Yeah.
You got videos
We got all
about
kinds
this
of videos.
thing. Yeah.
bear in mind also, this was certainly true in my case, going through college, there might be a course you didn't think you wanted that you wound up being in that really, really excited you. Be open to that.
Right. I think we're almost done. Is there anything we want to close with?
Just remind your students that that onboarding sort of curriculum that Advising set out called Compass is still open and available to them.
Mhm.
And through that, there is advice about these kinds of things like registration and understanding the difference between classes. So they can always go back and sort of recheck that stuff as well as the college website.
And if they haven't talked to their pre-major advisor yet about advanced registration, get in and do that so they can lift your hold.
And we do have walk-in hours in the college office from 12 to 4 every business day.
Thank you very much, and we want to wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And if you are here for the weekend, Family and Parents Weekend, we'll see you in person then. Thanks very much.